Hey there. Welcome back. Pull up a chair and get comfortable, because today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to look at a coin that most people would probably just flick off a table or toss into a tip jar without a second thought. Let's get started. I'm talking about that little 5-cent piece hiding in the bottom of your old junk drawer or stuck between the couch cushions. It's dirty, it's scratched, it's worn smooth in places, and honestly, it looks like nothing special at all. Just normal pocket change. The kind you'd spend on a gumball without even glancing at the date. But here's the thing that might surprise you. That ugly, beat-up little nickel could actually be worth more than a whole roll of fresh ones. And I'm not talking about a few dollars. I'm talking about real, serious money. Let me introduce you to the coin that most people walk right past. The United States 5-cent Liberty coin from 1938. Now, if you're thinking, wait, I thought the nickel had Thomas Jefferson on it. You're right for most years after 1938. But 1938 was a special turning point. That year, the U.S. Mint was still finishing up the legendary Buffalo nickel, which is actually the coin I'm talking about here. The Buffalo nickel, also called the Indian head nickel, features a proud Native American profile on the front and a standing bison on the back. And on that front, just above the profile, it says the word Liberty. That's why many collectors call it a Liberty coin. So when you see a worn, grimy old nickel with a buffalo on the back and a date from the 1930s, don't just assume it's worthless. Because 1938 was the last year the Buffalo nickel was ever made, and that's where the magic begins. So why does this particular coin have such surprising value, even when it looks like it's been through a washing machine and then a gravel road? The answer comes down to a few simple things: scarcity, demand, and what coin experts call key dates. In 1938, the Mint produced Buffalo nickels for only the first part of the year before switching over to the Jefferson design. That means far fewer 1938 Buffalo nickels were struck compared to earlier years. On top of that, millions were melted down or simply worn out in circulation over the past 8 decades. A clean, sharp example is already rare. But here's the part that really gets interesting. Even a dirty, scratched, ugly-looking 1938 nickel can still carry surprising value if certain details are still visible. You don't need a museum-quality coin to walk away with an extra paycheck in your pocket. Let me walk you through exactly what to look for, because the difference between a 25-cent coin and a $1,000 coin can be something as tiny as a letter or a faint line. First, flip the coin to the buffalo side. Is the buffalo's horn still visible? On most worn nickels, the horn is the first thing to disappear. If you can see even a partial horn, that's a good sign. Second, look at the date on the front. Because the date was raised on these coins, it wore down quickly. A readable 1938 date is your ticket to potential value. Third, check the area just below the date for a tiny letter. D for Denver or S for San Francisco. No letter means it was minted in Philadelphia. The 1938 D and 1938 S nickels are significantly rarer than the Philadelphia ones. And finally, look at the word Liberty itself. If you can still read all 6 letters clearly on the front of that dirty, scratched coin, you might be holding something that collectors will happily pay hundreds for. Now let's talk real numbers, because that's what you really came for. A 1938 Buffalo nickel that looks like it was found in a parking lot. Worn smooth, barely readable date, no visible mint mark. Might only be worth a quarter. But the moment you find one with a clear date and a readable buffalo, the value jumps. For a 1938, D in what collectors call good condition, which is pretty worn but still solid, you're looking at around $850. If that same coin has a little less wear, and you can see the buffalo's horn and some detail in the fur, the price climbs to $1,300 or more. And here's where it gets exciting. A nice, honest 1938 S nickel with no cleaning and full details can bring $2,100 without breaking a sweat. For a truly sharp example, one that looks like it might have been tucked away in an old drawer since 1938, we're talking $3,400. And the absolute best of the best, a 1938 D or 1938 S in uncirculated condition with full horn and mint luster, can top out at $4,700 or even higher at a reputable coin auction. I want to pause right here and make something very clear, because this is where most people accidentally destroy their own good luck. If you find a dirty, dark, or greenish 1938 nickel, do not clean it. Do not scrub it. Do not soak it in vinegar or polish it with baking soda, or use one of those jewelry cleaning cloths. I know it looks ugly, but collectors want a natural surface that's been untouched for 85 years. Cleaning leaves microscopic scratches and changes the color in ways that experts can spot immediately. A $4,700 coin that gets scrubbed with a toothbrush becomes a $50 coin in the blink of an eye. So leave the grime alone. Seriously, put it in a small envelope or a plastic flip and don't touch it. That dirty look is often a sign that the coin has never been messed with, and that's exactly what drives the price up. So here's what I want you to do after this video. Go find that old change jar, that dusty shoebox in the closet, or that pile of coins on your grandpa's dresser. Look for any nickel with a buffalo on the back, especially one with the date 1938 or any date from the late 1930s. Flip it over, squint at the date, check for a tiny DRS, and don't be discouraged if it looks terrible, because even an ugly coin, worn, scratched, dark, and easy to ignore, can have real, solid value if the right details are still hanging on. That's the beauty of collecting. You don't need a perfect coin. You just need to know what you're looking at. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Go check your pockets, and I'll see you in the next one. Next coin, the 1940 United States 5-cent piece, the one with the word Liberty running down the left side of Thomas Jefferson's portrait. At first glance, it looks tired. The surface is often a dull, grayish silver, maybe even darkened to a muddy brown in places. The high points of Jefferson's hair are worn smooth. The collar of his coat has lost its sharp edges, and the steps of Monticello on the reverse look more like a faint set of scratches than actual architectural detail. You might see nicks along the rim, a scratch across Jefferson's cheek, or a small dent from someone's careless thumb. Most people, when they see a coin like this, make a quick judgment. It's too damaged, too dirty, too ordinary to be worth anything. And that assumption is exactly why this coin gets thrown back into a change jar or spent on a coffee, completely overlooked. But let's think about that reaction for a moment. Why do we automatically write off a worn, dull coin? Because we've been trained to believe that only shiny, pristine objects have value. That's true for many collectibles, but not for coins like this 1940 Liberty nickel. What you're really looking at is a piece of American history that has survived 85 years of pockets, cash registers, parking meters, and vending machines. That wear and tear tells a story. And more importantly, even in this beat-up condition, the 1940 nickel holds a quiet secret. It can be worth far more than 5 cents. In fact, depending on a few specific details that most people never think to check, this ugly little coin can jump from pocket change to several hundred or even several $1,000s. Let me give you the historical context. The 1940 Jefferson nickel was only the third year of production for this design, which replaced the famous Buffalo nickel the year before. The mint in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco struck millions of these, so they aren't rare in absolute terms. But here's what changes everything. World War II was already underway in Europe, and the United States would soon enter the war, causing massive shifts in metal usage. By 1942, nickel would become a strategic war material, and the mint would switch to a silver alloy composition. That means the 1940 nickel is one of the last truly pre-war nickels made entirely of 75% copper and 25% nickel. Collectors love these pre-war issues because they represent the end of an era. And even though millions were made, high-quality survivors are surprisingly scarce. That scarcity pushes demand upward, and demand is what turns a beat-up coin into something valuable. So how do you check your own 1940 nickel without getting fooled by its rough appearance? First, look at the reverse, the side with Monticello. In the center, just below the image of the building, there's a small area that should show 5 horizontal steps leading up to the entrance. On most worn coins, these steps blur together into a shapeless lump, but if you can see 4 distinct steps, or even better, 5 full steps, you found something special. Second, flip the coin over and look below Jefferson's ponytail for a mint mark. A D means Denver, an S means San Francisco, and no letter means Philadelphia. The 1940D and 1940S are generally more sought after than Philly issues, especially in better condition. Third, check the word Liberty itself. If all 6 letters are clear and readable despite the general dullness, your coin is above average. And finally, look at the rim. A full, unbroken rim with no flattening indicates the coin wasn't excessively worn down by circulation. Now, let's talk about what this coin can actually bring you in real dollars. Because that's where surprise comes in. A completely worn-out 1940 nickel with no readable date and a smooth buffalo. Wait, wrong coin. Seriously, a slick 1940 Jefferson might only be worth a dime, but a 1940 D with moderate wear, clear Liberty, and 3 visible steps on Monticello can easily sell for $920 at a coin show or online auction. If that same coin has a bit less wear, and you can see 4 full steps, the price jumps to $1,650. For a 1940S with 5 full steps and original unclean surfaces, even if it has some light scratches and a darkened tone, you're looking at $2,750. A truly sharp example from the Denver Mint, with luster still hidden under a thin layer of honest grime, can bring $3,850. And the absolute cream of the crop, a 1940P Philadelphia or 1940D with full steps, full original mint luster, and only the lightest contact marks, has been known to reach $4,900 or more in competitive bidding. Those are not fantasy numbers. Those are real collector prices for a coin that most people wouldn't look at twice. I want to be clear about something. You don't need a perfect, gleaming, uncirculated coin to see serious value. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that if a coin isn't shiny, it's worthless. That's simply false. The 1940 nickel in circulated condition, dull, scratched, worn, still has a strong market, especially if it has those visible steps or a clear mint mark. Collectors actually prefer coins that look honest, meaning they show normal wear but no artificial damage. That dark, dull surface you see, that's often called original skin, and it's highly desirable. On the other hand, if you find a 1940 nickel that someone has polished to a bright, fake shine, the value drops dramatically. So remember, ugly but original is good. Shiny but clean is bad. And that brings me to the most important warning I can give you. Do not clean this coin. I know it looks dirty. I know you want to scrub off that dark film or dip it in something to make it sparkle. But please, do not do it. Cleaning scratches the surface, removes the natural patina that took decades to form, and leaves microscopic evidence that destroys collector value. A $4,900 coin that gets wiped with cloth or soaked in lemon juice becomes a $50 coin almost instantly. Put your 1940 nickel in a cardboard flip, a small envelope, or even a plastic baggie. Just don't touch it with anything abrasive. Leave the grime exactly where it is. So here's the takeaway. That dull, scratched, easy to ignore 1940 nickel sitting in your change jar might look like nothing special. But now you know what to check. The steps on Monticello, the mint mark, the word Liberty, and the rim. Even a worn coin can carry strong value if the right details remain. Go find your old coins, look at them closely, and don't be fooled by appearances. Thanks for watching and happy hunting. Second coin, so why is this particular coin, the 1947 S Jefferson nickel, so easy to misjudge? Because it was made in massive quantities. The San Francisco Mint struck over 24 million of them, and 80 years later, they're everywhere in worn-down condition. Most coin guides will tell you that a beat-up, circulated 1947 S nickel is basically still worth about a nickel or a dime. But that's only if you're looking at it with untrained eyes. The real story, the one that makes collectors' hearts beat faster, has to do with the quality of the coin that left the mint. See, back in 1947, the mint's quality control left a lot to be desired. The striking pressure wasn't always strong enough. As a result, most of these coins came out with soft, mushy details, especially on the reverse at the bottom of Monticello. This means that a 1947 S nickel with a sharp strike is actually incredibly rare. When you find one that has what the experts call a good strike, the value doesn't just go up a little, it skyrockets. This brings us to the single most important detail to look for, the steps. Turn your coin over to the back, the side with the big house. That's Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's beloved estate. Look closely at the bottom of the building where the front porch meets the ground. In a perfect world, you'll see 5 or 6 distinct horizontal lines, like little rungs on a ladder. These are the steps. On a standard, poorly struck 1947 S nickel, those steps look like a solid, blurry mess. They aren't steps at all, just a blob of metal. But if you can see 4 or 5 individual raised lines, you have hit the jackpot. The other feature to check is the luster. A normal 1947 S nickel looks like it was thrown in a rock tumbler, dull and lifeless. But a valuable one will show you a flash of cartwheel luster when you tilt it in the light. Also, look at the hair above Jefferson's forehead. If that hair detail is sharp and not melted away by wear, you're holding a coin that a collector has been hunting for years. Now let's talk about the money, because that's where the emotional payoff is. Let's say you find that average-looking, ugly nickel. If it's just normal wear and tear with blurry steps, it's a keeper for the history, but maybe only a few bucks. But if it's a little cleaner, and the steps are starting to show, we start to see real value that can reach up to $780***. If you find one in unusually nice condition with sharp details on Jefferson's hair, and 3 to 4 clear steps on the porch, that's where the surprise kicks in. That coin could easily be worth $1, $2.50 to $2, $0.50 to the right buyer. Now, if you happen to be the incredibly lucky person who finds a true, full steps nickel that is still bright, lustrous, and unscratched, you're now in the major leagues. A high-grade 1947 S with full steps has been known to bring $300 at auction. And because these coins are so conditionally rare, a pristine, top-tier example, the King of the Hill, can easily tick up to $4,600 or even higher, depending on how the bidding goes that day. It feels strange, doesn't it? Holding a piece of metal that looks so dirty and small, knowing it has a secret value that could pay your rent or buy a plane ticket. That's the magic of coins like the 1947 S. They don't announce themselves. They hide in plain sight, rely on the fact that most people assume old means valuable, but damaged or ugly means worthless. That assumption is your advantage. Always pay attention to the steps, the hair, and the overall sharpness of the design. The coin that looks like garbage might just be the one that was struck perfectly 80 years ago and then lived a quiet, undisturbed life in a dark drawer. Before you do anything else with that coin, I want you to stop. Right now, if you have this coin, I know you're probably looking at that grime and the dark oxidation thinking, I'll just wipe it off with a cloth so it looks nicer. Do not do it. I'm serious. You have to trust me on this. The moment you rub that coin with a tissue or dip it in vinegar or any kind of cleaner, you are scrubbing away hundreds of dollars. Collectors call that cleaned or doctored, and they will reject it immediately. The original skin, even the ugly dark greasiness, is the only thing protecting the value underneath. Put the 1947 S nickel in a soft paper envelope, or handle it gently by the edges with clean fingers. Never wipe the face.